Delighted to be joined this morning by Sean Keyes, who's the Managing Director of Sutcliffe. Sutcliffe have been in business for a considerable amount of time, which Sean's going to tell us about in a second. But before that, Sean, this new homework in law, how are you finding it?
On the whole, enjoying it. I'm finding that I'm getting up at normal times. The kids are staying in bed till lunchtime, but that's to be expected. But I'm getting up at 7:30 every day as normal.
And I just noticed behind you there a far more interesting background than the flower that's stuck behind me. A number of football shirts. Any stories behind them?
Yeah, massive stories. I'll go up. 1966, Jeff Hurst. That was the year I was born. And of course, the only time we won the World Cup. And incredibly, a little bit like the picture on the right-hand side, I've never seen us win the World Cup. And on the right-hand side is a signed Kenny Dalglish shirt. And the left-hand side is the signed Everton shirt, which is brilliant. And there's a little Kiev flag in there, which, if you know, is when me and my son did the journey to Kiev, which is a story in itself. Story in itself.
Yeah. Well, I like that. I like that one there, that blue one. Yeah. So, Sean, an incredible journey that Sutcliffe have been on. Tell us the significance of this year for your company.
The significance of this year, it's our 35th anniversary year. We were set up in 1985 by John Sutcliffe. I've been with the company now since 1990, and we've seen a steady growth through that period. We've been involved in all sorts of construction projects across the northwest of England and throughout the UK, and we've employed school leavers right the way through to people retiring. And there's been a whole host of projects that we've been involved in, which have been massively significant to our region.
And you operate, although Liverpool-based, right across the country, Sean, don't you?
Right across the country, yes. So the majority of our work is northwest, North Wales. So Manchester, Liverpool, Preston, North Wales. But then we've got stuff on the south coast. We've got stuff over in Hull and in Newcastle. Got something down in Southampton and Cardiff. So there's plenty of stuff throughout. And we try to bring most of it back to the northern Powerhouse.
And when John set the company up 35 years ago, and you were in short kecks, did you ever imagine that you'd be such a big player within the construction sector?
No, I think when you're young, you don't see your future. And there's a lesson in here for all of us, is that you need to sort of align yourself with some intelligent older people who've lived the dream. And then quite often you don't realise, but they're nurturing you into the future. And I suppose me and you, Frank, we need to be nurturing the next generation so that in another 25 years' time, there's a talent pool behind us to make sure that what we do is being taken over by some highly skilled and competent people.
So what was your individual journey within the business, Sean?
My individual journey started 1990, left university in 1989. I'd worked in a couple of organisations prior to that, a couple of national organisations, and worked out on site for different contractors. And I started in 1990 as a graduate engineer, and then I've done every role through the business, from graduate engineer to a senior engineer to a chartered engineer to an associate to executive associate to a director, now the managing director. Now that gives you a massive advantage in that you understand where people are at. So when I interview somebody who's 22, I actually know where they're at. So I don't ask them to do too much. I know what they're capable of. And then equally, I know that the steps that it's required to take them through to the next part of their journey.
And in terms of that personal journey, did you at any time during that period think about moving on, getting the transfer, if we can use the football analogy?
Yeah, no, football, I tell you, Frank, I'll be really pleased when we can just have straightforward football banter, but that'll be another day. Quite honestly, no. Anybody who knows me well will know that I have a 3-year rule. That if you don't stick with somewhere for a couple of years, then it usually means that you're always looking for something better. And quite frankly, you don't climb to the top positions if you don't stick somewhere. So all of our top team, the average, I think, is probably about it's probably about 20 years for the top team.
Wow.
The top director team is 20 years. The next level down is probably maybe 10 or 15 years. But I've never really, there's a couple of tough years in that. We won't harp on that today. So we've had 2008, millennium problems, problems in the 90s with recessions and stuff. So there was tough years in that. But if you enjoy what you do and you're getting reasonably well paid and you can see a future, why would you want to leave? I mean, ultimately, and I know this is how you're structured, your business is, we try to make the structure of our business as a family business. So all the people I work with are my friends.
Yeah.
They're like family. Yeah. And I really want to enjoy coming to work and enjoy the people I'm with. So I've never, ever once had an inkling that I was ever going to leave. I said, it's been bad days, but generally, that's just like a marriage. You have days that aren't as good as other days, but really enjoy coming to work is the key.
Yeah, and that's crucial, isn't it, Sean? I mean, I remember when I was setting my own business up, it's half the time that you guys have been going. So it's 17 years for Downtown this year. And, you know, the people that I was talking to at that time said to me, whatever you do, make sure that you love what you do, because there will be those tough times and challenging times.
Yeah. Yeah, no, indeed. So love what you do. Surround yourself by good, competent people. One of the reasons that we've had a successful year last year, the staff is massively important. So I don't want to take anything away from them. But the top team is so experienced. I mean, we're in a couple of difficult years now, but I'm surrounded by some of the best engineers and managers in the city. And so I know that if something happens to me, then I've got 3 or 4 guys that are really powerful, strong people to take over. So if you've got a strong team around you, then that just gives you extra support and spreads the burden and the responsibility as well.
So 35 years, you must have been involved in some exciting projects. What are those initiatives that you've been involved in delivering that make you most proud?
Most proud, I think, probably the extent of the housing that we've delivered across the region. We recently looked that we delivered, I think, £1 billion worth of property around the Northwest over the last couple of years, which was an astronomical number of homes and houses. I mean, you start to multiply the people's lives that you've touched and improved. So the housing is probably the biggest part of our impact on society. But then we're currently involved in the Royal Hospital. They've got initiatives, all sorts of initiatives to bring on board intensive care beds and such. So at the moment, that's massively important. But then I can't drive from my home into the office without driving past maybe 50 or 100 projects that I've been involved in. So I drive on my road and I think, oh yeah, we worked on the house. I get to the top of the road, oh, that's the school we built. You go a little bit further on, oh, they're the row of shops that we demolished and rebuilt. Oh, the supermarkets, we were involved in the demolition and refurbishment, and we haven't even got the city centre yet. Yeah. And they go to the city centre and we're reshaping the city centre and for the next generation. And then equally, when you get to the office, you think you're planning the next phase of the redevelopment of the city. And Liverpool, during my career in the 80s, was a really tough time. And we've transformed ourselves, and I'm so proud of that. The Northwest has transformed itself. Manchester's transformed itself. And as time goes by, we're going to become, the North is going to be a much, much bigger player in the UK economy and the world economy.
Absolutely, I would totally agree with that. And just touching on this Northern Powerhouse initiative and Liverpool's renewed reputation as well. I know Sutcliffe have been a key player in Liverpool's return to MIPIM, the property festival, which sadly didn't happen in March, but will no doubt continue in the future. And, you know, again, I often have people saying to me, Sean, is it worth the effort and the expense, because it's not a cheap option going to MIPIM, for business to actually go out, spend 3 or 4 days over there? Your view, obviously, is it most definitely is.
Absolutely, our view is it most definitely is. We went I think the first time in 2008, and then things got difficult again then. So we had a couple of quieter years. I think when John was around, John went with the chamber, but we've gone back in earnest in the last couple of years. And most importantly, I went with Bill Bolden. So good morning, Bill. And we had a really fun time, but we worked our socks off. We proper worked our socks off. We were up at, we were out the house at 8 o'clock in the morning, typically not getting back till 12:30, and we were very, very sensible about what we were doing. So primarily it was to promote our business, and by promoting our business we're also promoting the city, we're promoting the region, we're promoting the UK. And sometimes when you're doing business development, it can be quite tenuous and it's difficult to actually say, I got that project out of that. But it's important to promote a region. It's important that the respected businessmen and educated people of the city are out there putting forward our positive image. But I can say with 100% certainty that we have picked up work directly as a result of meeting people out there. So the key players in our industry are out there. And two projects that we've recently picked up, the original link goes back 2 years ago when we met people in MIPM. So there's one which was a firm of solicitors in London. So we do a little bit of expert witness work, construction litigation. That started in MIPM, and we recently, this week, with all the troubles that are going on, we've received an instruction. And another one was around getting involved in the Royal Hospital. We had discussions with the project manager, and that was the start of us finding out about how we could have some involvement in solving the problem at the Royal Hospital. So for us, it's paid on those jobs, but it's about promoting the region as well.
Yeah, brilliant. And we're also today going to announce a new partnership for Sutcliffe. I'm delighted to say, with Downtown in Business.
Fantastic, thank you, Frank.
Yeah, so we're really looking forward to working with you guys, and obviously we've been talking to yourself, Billy, and the team about what plans we've got going forward. Thrown off track somewhat over the next couple of months, but nonetheless, we'll get stuck in as soon as we get back. And the obvious question, I suppose, Sean, why did you think that Downtown were going to be able to help take you on the next stage of the journey?
Well, to be fair, go back to you enjoy what you do. The team enjoys what they do. You're out there. So there's been a couple of things, that press coverages that you put out there in terms of what you're doing for business, and you're lobbying local government, you're lobbying the Parliament, and you're lobbying the MPs. So that's important for us. I feel that you're our voice. So I do feel that you're our voice. The brand and the image of Downtown is where we want to be. We see it as a positive brand and a positive image. And we've had some really, really enjoyable evenings with your team and with other like-minded people. So what you've done successfully, Downtown do successfully, you bring other like-minded organisations and businesses together, and we learn off them. But then, obviously, at the same time, we have picked up new projects and new commissions by building those relationships on those events.
Well, we're looking forward to do more with you going forward. And so, final point from me, really. I mean, we've been quite upbeat today. We've talked about the great things that Sutcliffe have been involved in. Before we came online, you and I were just having a chat about, the challenges, but equally the opportunities when we come through this.
Absolutely.
Are you still optimistic about the construction sector post coronavirus?
Absolutely. I'm on a little group with the Association of Consulting Engineers, which is a national organisation. And the general view from them is that this is going to last a little bit longer than we'd like it. So it's not going to be a couple of weeks. But when we come out, there'll be a little bit of period that's corrected, but there should be a bounce. And we're anticipating a bounce. So the bounce, who knows how big it's going to be, but what we require is UK businesses and consultants to be ready to move. So what we're trying to do at the moment is that the contractors that are unfortunately having to close down their sites, we are ready for them to start. So over the last couple of week or two, when we've had the team working from home, and the next few weeks, we are going to get all of our designs, all of our civil engineering designs, structural engineering designs, drainage designs, site investigations, all completely ready. So when the doors are open, that our designs are ready for contractors to start on site virtually straight away. So what we're looking for is that the door to be open and for the subcontractors, the bricklayers, the piling contractors to be ready to move.
Fantastic. Nice to see you being so upbeat, but I wouldn't expect anything else from you, Sean.
Thank you very much, Frank.
And it's the next 35 years.
35 years. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Sean. Thank you.